All right, well, welcome everyone to today's Live on Now session focused on unlocking productivity with process mining and the workflow data fabric. Two extremely popular topics within the ServiceNow community. Some of us may be familiar with the workflow data fabric, others might be familiar with process mining. Today, what we're going to attempt to do is educate at a foundational level, demystify, and highlight how they could potentially come together to help us accelerate your ability to transform how work gets done in your organization. This is the slide that says, hey, anything I say and do here today can't be held against me in the court of law. Also, the slide that says, hey, as part of these conversations, if we make any forward-looking statements, and we certainly might today, you should take them as such, make no decisions based on them whatsoever, because they're always subject to change. And I'm assuming everyone's read the fine print. For those that I've not met before, my name's Dan Grady. I'm part of the process mining product management team here at ServiceNow. I do also have one of my colleagues with me today, Damien. Do you just want to say a quick hello?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Damien's going to be monitoring the Q&A, so as you have questions throughout the session, please use that Q&A function that's there, and Damien will do his best to answer them there. And at the end of the session, we'll go through the list and see if there's any that we should be answering for the larger group as a whole. Roz Parpia is also on our process mining product management team. You may be working with her, especially those folks in the EMEA area. She's not able to join us today, but we look forward. She's done some amazing sessions recently. So you should look for content that she's putting out there on the internet as well. All right. We always like to start these sessions with this quote, do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. We like the quote because it usually aligns to the reason that we've all gathered, right? To learn a little bit more about ServiceNow, take that knowledge, go back, apply it, get more value out of our investment in the platform. And it also aligns to one of the solutions that we'd be focusing on here today, process mining, which is designed to help us x-ray the business processes we have running in our organizations and start to show us where and how we can be doing better for everyone involved with them. We've got a packed agenda today. So it seems like a lot. It is a lot, but I think we'll get through it pretty quickly. First, we'll just talk a little bit about some of the obstacles to effective process mining in our organizations. Then we'll talk about the workflow data fabric and how it can help us get past some of those obstacles. We'll dive into a quick little process mining 101 and share a few examples of how it gives us visibility into different processes. And then we'll jump into a demonstration piece, and we're going to break the demonstration up into two components. One is we'll look at how the process mining workspace can be used to help us slice and dice our process data and find opportunities to improve. It's going to be a very quick demonstration. There's lots of things we can do in the process mining workspace. We don't have time for them all today, but there's other sessions that do deeper dives. And then lastly, we want to show you how easy it is to get started with the solution. One of the things that we can highlight here today, or one of the advantages of using an in-platform process mining solution, is the speed in which our customers can get visibility into their processes on the ServiceNow platform. And if we're running those processes are running across different data sources through the platform, that helps us get that immediately visibility from a cross data source perspective. Then once you're all excited about what you just saw, there's a way in which you can start trying process mining with your own process data immediately in your instances. So we'll just make sure you're aware of how to do that. And then lastly, there's no shortage of additional resources above and beyond this session that you can use to learn more about process mining. So we want to point you at the most effective ones to help you get started. That's the plan. And again, I know it seems like a lot, but we're going to get through it. Now, so let's just follow up that first quote with this one from a recent Forrester report. Adopting process intelligence tools makes sense. And essentially, like, the time is now for organizations to be thinking about adopting process mining solutions, right? It just makes sense as organizations look to add automation or AI agents to their business processes. They need visibility into where the opportunities are. And after they roll something out, they want to understand the impact of that automation or how the AI agents are performing on their behalf. And most organizations have historically faced challenges with getting the level of visibility that process mining can provide in a very timely manner. It's usually in the past involved weeks or months of time-consuming and expensive meetings where sticky notes are placed all over the walls and we're writing all over whiteboards. And then after they get through all those meetings, sticky notes, and whiteboard sessions, the situation's already changed, and they had to start doing that all over and over again. It's like they can never leave that meeting room. And this is why right? In the same Forrester survey where we got that quote from of over 1,000 global automation decision makers at enterprises, 91% of them responded that they're already adopting or planning to adopt process mining solutions. So almost everyone wants to automate and or add AI agents, which requires the process transparency that process mining provides. But there are things that limit the effectiveness of process mining. First is the use of point solutions just for process mining, right? For process mining to be most effective and deliver the most value, it needs to mine as much of your process data directly where your processes are running. That increases the speed to and depth of the insights that the process mining solution can provide. This also allows the solution to leverage any of the existing security rules that you've put in place to maintain the data integrity. So, like mining directly in the workflow platform also makes the improvement opportunities uncovered by process mining more immediately actionable. And this isn't possible when your process mining solution is separate from your processes or workflow automation platform. Now, these same leaders are starting to understand this. Over half of those that are currently using a standalone process mining tool are considering migrating to an embedded solution. This is part of that larger strategic trend of AI and automation consolidation onto complete platforms that Gartner calls BOAT, which I think is funny, but it stands for Business Orchestration and Automation Technology Platforms, and Forrester is calling it Process Orchestration Platforms. Now, the next big hurdle are siloed systems and organizational structures. It's helpful if the process mining solution can access and understand the data, not just in your process automation platform, but also all of your other hundreds of systems, data lakes, warehouses, hyperscalers, and other apps like ERP, HR, CRM, because your processes span all of them. I mean, there's tremendous value in having access to all of the additional data when digging into these cross-departmental processes and workflows to avoid incomplete and incorrect analysis. Now, as I say this, one key thing to remember is that we're going to be mining the process data and not just the data. And that might sound strange now, but you'll see what I mean as we go along. And the third thing that's an obstacle is a scarcity of the specialized skills needed for specialized process mining tools. This makes it challenging to scale process mining efforts, and it doesn't allow us to bring this necessary visibility to everyone in the organization who would need and benefit from it as they look to run their processes and at maximum efficiency, I should say, or at an optimal level. Now, as you've probably guessed, the ServiceNow AI platform is going to help us eliminate some of these obstacles and get us the level of visibility needed as we look to continuously transform and evolve our processes the processes that our organizations are running on. Specifically with the workflow data fabric, right? The data foundation and access layer within the platform that makes data more accessible, understandable, and actionable, right? These capabilities that we'll talk about, they help us connect any enterprise data source, whether it be structured, unstructured, real-time streaming data, to the ServiceNow platform. It enables I should not just say people anymore, people and AI agents to understand the data by contextualizing it, enriching it, and aligning it to the ServiceNow data model and the workflows that we have running on top of it. And then once you've structured it, right, it helps surface the highest ROI opportunities to improve, right? You can act on those opportunities using the workflow platform that we have here. And we all know and love that our ServiceNow platform is the best to automate end-to-end processes on. Just double clicking quickly. That's hard to say back to back, double clicking quickly on the connect piece, right? There are a number of capabilities available to help us power and enrich the processes running on the ServiceNow platform with data from across the organization, right? There could be multiple hour sessions on each of these, but today we just wanted to scratch the surface to make everyone aware of what was available, because as the platform evolves, it's getting harder and harder for all of us to stay on top of everything that we potentially could have access to. So integration hubs, folks, they help us with API access to different systems. Now, for systems that don't necessarily have APIs and we need more of a UI-based access to information, we can use the RPA hub and create some RPA bots to connect to those different systems. For access to more unstructured data to support things like AI search or Now Assist skills that we put inside of experiences, We have external content connectors. And then for real-time connection to high-volume event-based data, we have something we call Stream Connect. And we're currently in the process of rolling out our zero-copy connectors that will allow our customers to remotely access data living in enterprise systems and warehouses like Snowflake, Databricks, Google Cloud. They can access that data with zero data copy without having to move or duplicate it. So there's lots of different options to make the right data accessible at the right time to our business processes running on the platform. So the idea is this. We all have data. We have tons of it, petabytes, hundreds of columns, billions of rows. Like the idea we have to do something with. Like it's I heard somebody say this recently, like ask yourself, like, how lazy is your data? Like, let's make sure we're putting it to work. To make that data work on our behalf and get the most value out of it, we need to link it to thousands of processes that we're running our organizations on. Right? And then what we do once we start linking, then as those processes are executed across the different organizational and data silos, let's inject that data. Let's inject that data or specific insight at the right time and right place for the right stakeholder, right? That stakeholder could be human or more and more, maybe it's an AI agent acting on its own, right? And the idea is to help them make accurate and impactful decisions as efficiently as possible. But if we're thinking about it, if the process data, the work item, the case itself is getting updated with the right information from the different systems during the actual process, not only do we improve the experience, the effectiveness, and the efficiency of those working the process, we reduce the need to move data someplace else for process mining and the visibility needed to continually improve these processes. And so from a data perspective, what that might look like is this, from like looking at it from the workflow data fabric perspective, I should say. Like we've got this data fabric hub, right? And it's going to help us kind of map and identify all our different data sources in the organization. Then what we use this hub to do is start to map the relevant fields to the data model inside of ServiceNow. Right, so then we've got data coming from different places, easily accessible from a ServiceNow perspective as we start to build out our different processes, right? Then we use the data from that data model to enrich processes and flows running in the ServiceNow platform. I said the idea, right? We got all this data coming in, feeding into a single process, right? And we're enriching the process with data from across the organization. But now that we have the data connected from across data sources and organizational silos powering our business processes running on the same platform, what do we do next? Well, this is going to get us that visibility into process data that all those operations and automation leaders are starting for. So like, what do we do with that connected process data? We use it to look for opportunities to improve. And the idea is this with process mining. With every process, we have a plan, right? A design for how it should work. And when we design things, we design for both completeness and efficiency to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. Now, unfortunately, what we design is not always what plays out in reality, right? The reality is not all the work is going to be flowing through the optimal path, and that's going to have a negative impact on the experience requesting a service is having, as well as the people trying to deliver that service, right? The challenge that most organizations face, as we've talked about earlier, is seeing that reality so they can make the necessary improvements. And this is where process mining fits, right? Process mining on the platform is going to get us that level of visibility that everybody wants. It's going to immediately start to show us where we have things like rework loops, things ping-ponging between different teams, getting stuck in an on hold or waiting approval state for ungodly amounts of time. And with this accelerated visibility into how the processes are performing, especially those cross system processes, let's say, this should speed up our ability to make the necessary adjustments to the process. Now, some people say, wait a minute, Dan, like we already have a whole bunch of dashboards on the platform that give us visibility into our processes. Like, how is process mining going to be different than that? Well, those dashboards are great at giving us visibility into things like how many cases, tickets, incidents did we work? Which types were they? How long did it take to close those things? And probably most importantly, are we improving our cycle times and are we hitting our targets? All super important questions that dashboards help us ask and answer. And again, that data could be coming from anywhere now. But what happens with those dashboards is they start to expose things, and then we have follow-up questions about kind of why those things are happening. And this is where process mining comes in. Process mining allows us to start asking and answering all of those follow-up why questions about the processes. Things like, where is the process getting stuck? Where is there any unnecessary rework? Where are we spending or wasting the most time? Which vendors are speeding us up and which ones are slowing us down? And my all-time personal favorite, right? I've been at ServiceNow about 9 years at this point, and I think every customer I've worked with has asked me for the same report, so much so that I've given it a name. I like to call it the finger pointing report. Everybody wants to know, like, who's holding on to the work the longest. We need to know who's holding on to the work the longest. Or if you're more glass half full, we call that the opportunity to improve report. These are all the types of questions that process mining allows us to start asking and answering, getting us visibility into those processes, right? And we can apply this process mining capability to, let's say, a customer case process, like this example on the screen here, where we're looking at how the work is moving from step to step or state to state in the process and where the bottlenecks are and the rework loops there. Or maybe we don't want to look at how the work is moving from state to state in the process. We're more interested in that finger pointing style report and looking at how the work is moving from group to group in the organization, right? Across organizational silos, and see if there's any bottlenecks as part of those processes where the work is moving across different teams. It's really powerful to start to see where there's opportunities to improve routing throughout the organization, and process mining gives us that level of visibility. Sometimes we have more advanced and involved workflows that touch many, many systems or applications in the organization, like an HR onboarding lifecycle event, right? Where you have a high level onboarding case, a whole bunch of subtasks and requests within the different activity sets that touch different systems. We use something we call a multi-dimensional map to give us end-to-end visibility into those processes. These multi-dimensional maps are fantastic when you start to think about digging into your service catalog requests. If you think about the two primary bottlenecks in every service catalog request, you've got the approval step of the process, and then you have the fulfillment tasks themselves. Obviously, the approval step of the process lives at the item level. That's likely going to live inside of ServiceNow, but those fulfillment tasks, they can be touching many different systems in the organization, right? And we can get visibility into kind of how they're performing. While a report might be able to show you the overall fulfillment time of an item, if you really want to understand where you're leaking time from your processes, where the bottlenecks are, you're going to want to start looking at your request data this way, using these multi-dimensional maps. And then lastly, right, we've talked a lot today already about kind of the power and benefit of kind of linking your external data to the processes running on the ServiceNow platform to get this immediate visibility into kind of where the bottlenecks are, especially in those cross system or application processes. But we do offer up the ability, and the workflow data fabric certainly helps enable this, to ingest external process data and just look at an external process by itself inside of the ServiceNow platform with our process mining capability as well, right? So lots of different options in terms of, this happens to be a procure to pay process, or P2P, much easier to say than procure to pay, data that we've ingested into the platform from an external system. And we have applied our process mining capability on top of that. We give you different ways to do that. Obviously, all those capabilities that we exposed as part of the workflow data fabric section of the presentation to help with this. If you're interested in learning more about that topic of ingesting external data, I did want to point out that we do have a Process Mining Academy session out there. If you're not familiar with the Process Mining Academy, it's a once a month deep dive that we do into different areas of process mining. There's probably 36 or so different sessions out there. There's one specifically on how to ingest external process data and create those multi-dimensional maps that I just talked about, linking both internal and external process data into a single view. So if you want to do a real deep dive on that, that session's out there for you. All right, so what I wanted to do next now is kind of, now that we've kind of talked about the topic of like, hey, the workflow data fabric, how it gets us access to the data, process mining, what is it? And once we have that external data enriching our processes, like how it could help get us the visibility into those processes, let's just look at what process mining looks like live here. And just so you can see in this demonstration here, what I'm going to be going to is my process mining workspace. I probably should have started on a different screen, but in my list of workspaces, you will find the process mining workspace. And then you'll notice that you have a ton of different projects inside of that workspace that you can dig into to help you analyze the different data. Again, I probably should have loaded this ahead of time. But you have all these different projects that are going to allow you to dig into different different types of process data, whether it be customer case data, HR onboarding data, direct deposit process. You're going to create a project to answer specific process questions. Once you're inside of that project, you get visibility into different aspects of that process and opportunities to improve. And I'm going to walk you through a couple of things that you can see on the screen here. In this example here, what we've done is we've mined 2,300 customer service cases. And again, those customer service cases could be pulling data from different parts of the organization as they move through the process. The first thing that we're going to do with any set of process data that we mine is we're going to provide two visualizations to help you better understand that data. One is going to be a closure time completion trend, or a trend of closure times for that work that we mined, as well as a histogram showing a distribution of those closure times. As you'll see here, my demo data is just a little bit wonky. Your data is going to look a little bit cleaner than this. And then as I move down the screen, we get to a very important part of the solution. We offer up this concept of improvement opportunities, right? The visualized process maps are awesome for helping us dig into that data. But before we even get there, we want to help jumpstart the person doing the analysis to identify some immediate opportunities or areas of opportunities that they should be thinking about digging into. And these improvement opportunities come in two flavors: rule-based and automated. We give you the ability to create specific rule-based things or opportunities that you want to look for there to test hypotheses about where you have inefficiencies in your data. And then we also give you a library of inefficiency detectors that are just looking for inefficient patterns in the data, things like rework loops, things ping-ponging between different teams, things that have slow transitions or long resolution times. And all of these opportunities are going to get surfaced on this summary and insights page for you. And if you see something interesting, right, where you start looking at it and say, I've got some reassignments here where cases are bouncing back and forth between teams, it's going to give you some statistics. The most important one is going to be this total inefficiency. Again, the data in this instance is a little bit crazy from a demo perspective, but this total inefficiency number packages up all the time that's spent when these cases are bouncing back and forth between teams. And then when we're ready, we identify that as something that we want to continue the conversation with. We can drill down directly into the visualized process map for those cases that are hopping between teams. In this visualized process map, what you'll see here is we've combined both assignment groups and state transitions to help us understand the volume and velocity of the work. And again, this map could be sitting on top of a process that's connecting to lots of different data sources with the help of the workflow data fabric. For our scenario here, where we wanted to look at those incidents that are hopping between teams, I'm just going to narrow it down to the assignment group view of the process and expand this out to look at how the work is moving from group to group in the process. Again, could be cross-departmental. Maybe I want to expand the node so I can see the full names, and I can just focus in on these right here and start to say, okay, I've got my Electri support service group, and they're transferring 123 of these cases to this Electri support Americas group. I can see some statistics about the transfer times. I can use this histogram to get a distribution of those transfer times or how frequently it's happening. Then I've got some investigative features like drilling down to the detailed records themselves. I can start uncovering some of the trends and patterns in the unstructured short descriptions and the descriptions. I can use work notes analysis to uncover opportunities in the work notes themselves. All of this detailed and unstructured data is available to me because I'm using the in-platform solution. Those external process mining solutions very rarely, if ever, have access to this level of data. And this is where a lot of the actionable insights live. Again, big benefit to moving those cross-departmental workflows to the ServiceNow platform is you get this level of insight and easily apply process mining on top of that data to get that level of insight. So let's just come over here and let's look at this work that's moving from these different routes, right, and how they're passing along. And I can see here, I've got 181 of these that are making that transition. I can use this variation analysis just to narrow it down to that route. And then what I can do is if I just want to look at these 181, as I mentioned earlier, we can drill down to get to these detailed records, right, to continue that conversation with the data, to continue digging into those records that were going from that team to that team. I should also point out when I get to those records, I respect the security that's existing in the platform. Again, a benefit to staying in. Like if I couldn't see those details when I drill down, I wouldn't be allowed to see those detailed data. Huge advantage, right? Maintain and respect the existing security you've already put in place, which you'd probably have to rebuild if you started to move the data off the platform. I can run some clustering to harvest some of the gold that lives in that unstructured data, the short descriptions and the descriptions of these incidents that, or sorry, not incidents, cases that are being transferred from team to team. And then finally, right, I can start to use Now Assist and a generative AI to help me harvest some of the gold that lives in the work notes inside of here. So what we've done in the Yokohama release is we've used clustering on top of the work notes. Again, the actionable information, right? As these transfers are taking place, what are the agents on the front line saying and putting in the notes and the additional comments as that transfer happens. We cluster those notes and then we apply Now Assist on top of it, a Now Assist skill to start summarizing those things. And I see things like, hey, these requests were changed due to recurring themes of insufficient skills and knowledge gaps. Knowledge gaps is a trigger for me, right? There's a knowledge gap with the agent on the front line. Perhaps I can use the workflow data fabric and maybe one of those unstructured connectors, right? The connectors that we have to get at some of that unstructured data to provide more relevant and real-time, more relevant information for the agent on the front line so they don't need to transfer it. Right, so I can use this powerful capability to start surfacing opportunities to improve. And then when I find that opportunity to improve, I can come in here, and this is part of that, having the process mining as part of your workflow platform. I can link it to applications on the platform like continual improvement management or automation center that are designed to help us capture, track, and prioritize all these opportunities we're finding to improve our process or finding to improve to make sure that we hold people accountable to following up on these things, to close that loop from a continual improvement perspective, right? Process mining is awesome. We love it. But it's only half the battle, right? It's going to help uncover opportunities to improve, but then we need to actually act on what the data is telling us to do. These applications help us capture and track those opportunities, right? To make sure that we recognize the value of the analysis that we're doing. And in this case, we're going to start using things like the workflow data fabric to enrich that process and provide more information or relevant information to the agent on the front lines to eliminate some of these transfers and reclaim some of this 1 year and 4 months that's packaged up in this transfer from this team to this team. All right, quick little demonstration. There's so much more that I can show you in here from a process mining perspective. But at this point, what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that you saw how easy it was to get started with the solution, right? This is probably the most important piece. That there's a lot of power and visibility that we can provide folks here, but what the benefit to being an in-platform solution on top of kind of that direct access to the actionable information that lives in the work item data is the speed and ease in which we can get you to this level of visibility. This is a complete differentiator from any other process mining solution you may have looked at. So we're just going to call this one, let's say, Workflow Data Fabric. I'm going to pick the table that I want to mine. In this case, I'm going to mine that customer case table. But just so you can see real quick, right? If I had external data that I wanted to link to, I would choose that from the list. If I had a report source, I would do that. If I had archive data, I would do that, right? The idea, right? The ideal scenario is that you're creating cross-departmental, cross-application and system workflows on the ServiceNow platform and just having the platform with the workflow data fabric call out when it needs the relevant information. But if you do have those external use cases and it's only using an external application, we can help there as well. I'm going to choose the case table and say create project. This process is so easy. We only really need to do 2 things, maybe even 1 thing before we hit the mine button, but there's 3 or 4 things that will really make our mining effective. The first thing that we're going to do is we're simply going to filter the data based on the use case and the questions that we want to ask. I'm just going to come in here. This is just like building a report. Maybe I want to just filter and get rid of a certain product. I don't want cases that contain a certain product. So product is not, let's say, solar panel break fixed, and I'll narrow it down. We'll add time frames, you add certain categories, certain channels, any sort of filtering you want to do. Again, I don't have a specific use case here, so we'll just leave it as that. Then after I do that, I need to choose at least 1 activity. Like, what is the thing that's changing over time during the process that I want to use to identify bottlenecks? We looked at an example where we're looking at how both state and assignment groups were changing as part of our process. So let's just add those. So I'll add state field, and then I'll add the assignment group field as an activity, and we'll save that. And then we could be done. But of course, you're going to want to have those breakdowns to slice and dice the process map. So I'll come in here, I'll add things like assignment group, category, subcategory, product, contact type. Again, this data model that I'm pulling these from, that's something that we could set up with that data fabric hub, or you've already got it set up on the platform and just using workflow data fabric to enrich that data model. We'll be able to pull from that data right from here. We'll hit save. Again, could be done, but remember those awesome improvement opportunities, the rule-based and the automated ones? Well, let's just add those to our process mining project. So we'll choose some of the rule-based, the automated, we'll hit apply to project. We give you some of these out of the box for different processes. You also have the ability to create your own very easily. So for example, let's add a slow transition detector. Looking at slow transitions between groups. So we'll say slow transition. And we're going to look at slow transitions between assignment groups. That's going to be performance issue, and we'll hit configure. And at this point, we're done. We're going to start mining our data. That's a huge advantage, right? Look at what we just did there. In a matter of minutes, right? We're able to kind of create a project to get us visibility into our process data. Remember that one of those hurdles, the specialized skills and the scarcity of those specialized skills to do process mining? I'm pretty sure everyone on this call or watching the recording, you already have the skills in your organization to do what I just did. I typically joke that if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball, or if you can build a ServiceNow report, you can start visualizing your process in a matter of minutes. That is one of the biggest advantages we provide is the speed in which we get our customers to these insights. What's happening now is it's going out, it's harvesting the relevant audit log data in the platform based on what we just configured in the screens. It then is going to take that data, pass it off to the machine learning infrastructure in the data center to do all the heavy duty number crunching. So there's no impact on the performance of the instance. And then when it's done doing that, it's going to spit the finished model back into the instance. That's the piece, right? It's kind of when we start thinking about it, we're not just mining the data, we're mining the process data. And if that process is running cross-system through the ServiceNow platform, we have direct access to easily create process mining projects like I just did here today, right? Huge advantage, right? That's the piece that I always like to call out the speed in which we can get folks to it. This is going to take anywhere from 30 seconds to a couple of minutes. I'm not going to sit there and wait for it to finish for a couple of minutes. We'll just continue on with the content. All right, so what makes us different? Well, those point process mining tools, they're going to help you visualize your process and suggest ways to improve. There's good tools out there, but they do it at a much slower pace, burdened by a lot of complexity compared to what we just saw me do here on the ServiceNow platform, right? We enable you to visualize, understand, identify opportunities, and act on all of your data right where the processes live, right? The speed and ease of use of what you just saw is why more than half of those leaders Forrester surveyed are moving to embedded process mining solutions. And the other half, they're going to be too, once they realize that these in-platform solutions exist, right? There's just so much benefit to using in-platform process mining solutions. The question you need to ask yourself is, do you want to spend time extracting and integrating process data from different systems just for visibility? Or do you want to spend that time creating a more integrated and streamlined process, right? By enriching the process with data from other places using the workflow data fabric, and then you'll have immediate and continuous visibility into that process as you continue to transform and evolve it on the ServiceNow AI platform. That's kind of the shift that I think we wanted to kind of get people thinking about in this session is like, hey, if you're currently spending time extracting data from different systems for process mining purposes, why not spend that same time connecting those external systems to an interconnected or an integrated process on the ServiceNow platform? And then when you put process mining in the platform on top of it, you're going to get the same visibility, actually even better visibility, but you'll have a better process that you're running it on in the first place. You're just be mining a better process. All right. Now, at this point, what people typically say is, this is like, I think back to those days where like I was a kid down the block got one of those like motorized monster trucks and they were driving around in the driveway. I was like, I want to turn on that. Most of the time, once customers see and are exposed to process mining, they start saying, I want to turn. Can I see this with my own data? And the beautiful thing is we've now enabled it for you. So as of the Xanadu release, right, when you upgrade it to Xanadu, if you're on Xanadu and you're looking at your instance right now, go to the workspace list. What you're going to find is the process mining workspace is going to be there. And then there's going to be an incident, an evaluation project for incident. What this will allow you to do is mine the last 7 days of closed incidents up to 3,600 records. So you can start to see what process mining might look like on your own data. That's in Xanadu. When you upgrade to Yokohama Patch 2, very specifically Patch 2, you're going to find that there's 2 additional evaluation projects, one for customer service case and one for HR case. And what these are, again, same rules, right? Last 7 days of closed cases up to 3,600 records. But this will allow you to try in controlled fashion process mining with your own process data. And it'll allow you to do some very specific use cases. It'll allow you to use that evaluation project to look for automation opportunities or tools for your AI agents if you're exploring deploying AI agents. It'll allow you to do that multi-hop situation or example that I just showed you in the demonstration. It'll allow you to do some idle time analysis across that work. So we've provided some little recordings on the community to guide you through how to use those evaluation projects and start to play with process mining on your own process data. So really important, if you're interested in kind of trying this with your own data right now, you can go and do that if you're at the Xanadu level or at Yokohama Patch 2. All right. With that, I'm imagining that many of questions have come in via the Q&A. I'm just going to go take a look. Damien, was there anything that came in? If you haven't asked your questions already, please get your questions into the Q&A portion of this, and we'll do our best to answer them. Amy, is there anything that's come in
There was
that we
one
should?
about, yeah, there was one that I thought was a really good one. Because in all of our discussions, we talk about, analyzing data in the last few days or few weeks about, hey, I want to look at very specific time frame. And the answer is absolutely can. We can absolutely analyze data from any time that you'd like, as long as we have the data available. So to make sure that we have that and understand that we have the flexibility of scoping an analysis the way you want using the filters that live in the platform.
Yeah, that's an important piece. Let's see if there's any other questions that are coming in. Just a question about licensing. There's a number of different ways to get access to process mining. What I would suggest is that you just contact your account team to kind of see whether you're currently entitled to it or if you need something additional. But there's lots of flexibility in terms of how customers get access to process mining.
Yes, and there's one about the
Uh,
valuation project, right? In terms of
yeah.
can they do more?
Yeah, so for the person asking that question, hey, these evaluation projects are amazing, but like I'd like to create a project on something else, not the kind of pre-prepared ones that are there. You do have the option to turn process mining in your sub-production environment and play around with it. Again, same limitation up to 3,600 records, but you get a little bit more flexibility in terms of kind of what data you're pointing at that point. But what I would say is if that's the route that you want to go, you need to clone when next time you clone down to your sub-production environment, you're going to want to clone down with the audit log data, right? We're using the audit logs to help us generate some of these maps. So clone down into that audit log data, or clone down using the audit log data and then activate the process mining plugins. We've tried to make that a little bit more streamlined for you with these evaluation projects, so you don't have to go through the cloning process and you can start to play with it immediately. But if you want to do something above and beyond what's there, you can go that route. Any other questions that are coming in?
There's a question about if this is included in ITSM Pro, and that answer is no, it's not. It is included in Enterprise, but there's other, as Dan mentioned, there's other ways to license this
Yeah.
as well. Yeah,
You do have the ability to get process mining without going to Enterprise.
right.
If you're on ITSM Pro, again, just contact your account team so you're aware of all the different options. And no, to use in a lower environment, you do not need to have entitlement to it. It's going to limit you to the 3,600 records. So it gives you a little taste, but you're not going to be able to kind of get the full value of it. There's many benefits to be running this, running process mining in your production environment. Obviously, the timeliness of the data is a key piece. When you start drilling down into the records and running the clustering and the work notes analysis, you want to have real time data for that. It's going to help you kind of get the best the best insights and the most actionable ones. There's also connections with things like platform analytics and those continuous improvement applications and automation centers. So there's many benefits to running it in your production environment, but you do have access to try it in your sub-production environment. What other questions? Yeah, so the question about, hey, can we kind of those um, insights that we're getting using the work notes analysis, will that happen in the sub-production environment? If you clone down with all the data, you should start to see some of that stuff. But again, you're going to be looking at a limited set of the data. So you just want to be careful about the accuracy of what that's providing. If you're using a limited set of the data, that might not be as timely as the real data that's running in your production environment. What other questions? I'll give you a few more minutes to get those questions in. As we do that, just some additional resources that are out there for you. One, there is a now learning course called Process Mining Essentials out there. This does provide you, as you go through the course, a lab environment. So it spins up an instance so you can start to create your own projects using the data in that instance. So that's a benefit there. You've probably found us through the community forum, but if you didn't, there is a Process Mining Product Hub on the community forum. There is a lot of information out there, lots of recordings, lots of training, lots of different opportunities. It's where you would register for things like the Process Mining Academy, which is that once a month session that we host. Roz just did a session on process mining for CSDM with Mark Bodman. Really well-attended session, lots of interest there in terms of how to use process mining to improve the quality of the information in our CMDB. Damien's done sessions on process mining for customer service management, or how to use that guided setup experience that we just run. There's just lots of material out there in that Process Mining Academy, so make sure you register for that. There is something we call the Process Mining Use Case Series. So what that is these short little 5-minute videos. There's about 10 to 15 of them that run you through how to do common analysis like SLA breach analysis, multi-hop analysis, looking for things that take longer to route than resolve. So lots of different things there. Actually, there's one, somebody asked us about day shift versus night shift analysis. So there's a session for that, or a recording for that our colleague Bilal put out there. So lots of opportunities there. We also do host a monthly office hours every month. I think it's the fourth Thursday of every month. We host an office hour session. And then with all this content out there, one of the things we wanted to do was make it easier for folks to get access to this information, or kind of give them a guided curriculum, if you will. So if you search up a guide to getting started with ServiceNow Process Mining, it'll walk you through a nice, easy curriculum for those that are new to process mining. All right. Just if you're attending Knowledge, it sounds like some of you are. There's a number of different sessions. We're going to be doing a roadmap session there on Wednesday. The Now on Now team, obviously our own internal ServiceNow team, uses process mining. They're going to be covering a really interesting example of kind of how they're using process mining. I don't want to say to govern, but to kind of get visibility to how all the AI agents that we've deployed here at ServiceNow are performing. So that's another great session. One of our customers that's using process mining very effectively, Cigna, is going to be sharing the stage with us and kind of telling their story, sharing some use cases. So that's something that you might want to register for if you're interested in hearing somebody other than our team talk about how they're using process mining. And there also is a hands-on lab. We'll walk through kind of creating our first projects together, digging into some of the capabilities in the Analyst Workbench that you saw here today. All right, last chance for romance. Any other questions out there that have come in? So somebody asking about a demo instance from ServiceNow. I think your best bet, if you don't have access to a sub-production environment or these evaluation projects, is to spin up that Now Learning course and start playing around in there. Go through that course, get that lab instance. That'll give you some flexibility to play around with it. Yes, so a question about, hey, are there any high-level resources that you can share with executives around process mining? There's a number. I think Damien kind of answered that question in the chat, but if we go back to that guide to getting started that I was just mentioning here, you'll find on there, there's a quick 2-minute explainer. That's like a short little 2-minute like video that kind of covers what process mining is, why it's important. The next thing on that guide to getting started page is you'll find a overview presentation similar to the one that we did here today, a little bit shorter, obviously. You'll also find a recorded demonstration, a little bit longer, like 5 or 6 minutes, that you can share. So those are 3 assets that are available in that guide to getting started page, or on that guide to getting started page that you can use to share with others in the organization. All right. Any last questions that people want to get in before we turn into a pumpkin today?